Taking a look at the trading week beginning January 8th, the first thing we want to pay attention to is yields. When you look at 2023, despite all of the volatility that we saw in yields, the 2-year actually only ended up down 12 basis points, same with the 5-year, but the 10-year ended up unchanged, and the 30-year was actually up 5 basis points. You look over this past week, we had a 2-year up 20 basis points, a 5-year up 19, a 10-year up 17 basis points, getting back above 4%, and the 30-year up 17 basis points, getting back to 4.2%. So we have to watch a trajectory of yields going forward because, as you obviously saw, those higher yields pressured equities. So it's the yield relationship to equities. That's what everybody's looking at, and how that actually dictates what the Fed might do coming up at their first Fed meeting of the year, which is the first Fed meeting that matters, I should say, which is in March. We also want to look at gold. While gold did have a negative week, it held in fairly well and came off of the lows despite the higher yields that I just mentioned and a rising dollar. The dollar rose by 0.2% this week in the aggregate, although it did drop from the high by over 1%, which could be why gold actually bounced. But gold remained at, or near, I should say, all-time highs. So you have to keep an eye on how well gold held in and what it might be saying for the future of the markets, the Fed, and the US dollar, as well as yields. We also want to keep an eye on any talk about the debt ceiling. The US federal government's public debt reached an unprecedented $34 trillion mark, never been there before. And the next deadline for a debt ceiling extension is in the very near future. It's January 19th. So it's likely going to make its way into the headlines on this week of January 8th. They're going to start talking about it and what they might do about it. So keep an eye on that as well. Now, in terms of data, the official start of the earnings season begins with 24 companies reporting that have market caps over $1 billion, including large banks like JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and BlackRock all next week. Also, non-banking giants like United Healthcare, PepsiCo, Delta Airlines, Albertsons, and KB Homes, they're all reporting in this week of January 8th. In terms of actual economic data, Monday we have EU employment rate for November, UK and Aussie retail sales. Tuesday, German industrial production, trade balance in the US, and a 3-year note auction. That evening, we have a 10-year JGB auction. Wednesday, Chinese new yuan loans, and then New York Fed President John Williams is speaking, and a 10-year note auction in the US. Keep an eye on John Williams because he is a voting member. Thursday, December CPI data in the US and a 30-year bond auction. Obviously, inflation data matters. And then Friday, UK GDP data and December PPI data in the US.